Welcome back to part 5 of making the mega monogram, or I guess I've been calling it the collage monogram. I don't want to get it too confusing there. So the last we left off, can I zoom out here? Oh no, we'll try to pick this up a little bit. Last we left off, we had outlined all of the letters and we had outlined most of the rocket. We haven't done all the interior lines of the rocket. But I thought what we would do today is to go ahead and start some roses. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back down here so we get a better view of the rose. I'm going to do the green one just because that one is, I love this new Canva lamp. It was so stupidly expensive, but it works really good for keeping my cell phone balanced. I think I'm going to do a review of it just so that you all can understand the amazing part. Now, see what happens. I turn the light on and off. I actually really don't like the light that it comes with. I'm using a ring light. And I feel the ring light gives me a lot better natural color. Okay, so I'm not sitting here talking your ear off. Oops, that didn't get glued down last night. On the first video, when I was discussing the placement and slicing out these and the layers and whatnot, we did the central core of the green rose. And we're going to go ahead and finish. We're going to work on the green rose, and I wanted to show you a couple of things beforehand. So, first of all, these are coordinating. This is the Mint Cricket textured cardstock, which I really like. And I've cut my own strips with it. I've cut 3/8 inch wide strips, which are hard to get in cardstock. You either have to make your own or you have to hope that Erin has some on hand. Quilt Creations doesn't actually carry cardstock in 3/8 inch. Hint, hint, if you guys start emailing Quilt Creations and say, hey, can you start carrying 3/8 inch cardstock? Maybe they will. I would say you can always get it from Erin, but and when I say Erin, I mean little circles, but it's not always possible. She doesn't always have it in stock, and she has to custom cut it, and I don't think that she always wants to do that. So, this is regular Quilt Creations Mint in 3/8 inch, and if you see how pliable and bendy it is, and you see how stiff this is, see how it's not bending at all, and this does. Cardstock has a lot of great applications, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline these lines with the cardstock, and then I'm going to do some fill with this to give it some extra dimension. We're going to try that anyways. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to zoom in, and we talked about my roses, and I told you in the first video I've only ever made one of the rose, and I know that they're easily created without any sort of templates or guidelines. But I think that's kind of more time consuming and more fiddly than I'm interested in. This gives me a really nice result it gave me a nice result the first time I did it. So I'm going to go ahead and try repeating that. I'm going to do it with a couple colors of green. I'm going to actually do the bulk of it in this mint color, and then I'm going to go in with a deeper tone just to show some depth in between coils and in little nooks and crannies. So to create the rose, all I'm going to do is follow these handy little guidelines that I have. I'm just going to follow these lines. I'm not going to follow them 100%. They're just there to hint at the shape of the petals, or the whorl, W-H-I-R-L, or whorl. Maybe it's W-H-O-R-L. I'll have to look that up. Okay, so this is all we're doing. We're just going to go in here and we're going to build this rose by curling this paper, and we're not going to go really heavy with the cardstock, but we're going to come out here and we're going to say, okay, that right there looks pretty good. That follows those lines, and we're just going to follow the major lines, and then we're going to do some fill with the lighter cardstock. Okay. So what I'm going to do is slide this way so I can get a better view. And we're going to start by connecting right here. We're going to connect a piece where this terminates, and we're just going to glue around. Let me go ahead and get a nice fine tipped paintbrush here. I really don't have very many, do I? I want to give this a nice curl because I would like it to, I want it to curl nicely for me. I don't want to have to fight with it. Okay, so that's where I'm going to start right there, and I'm just going to kind of pull it around and glue it, pull it and glue it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the underneath, the bottom side of this, so it catches on the background portion. And I'm also going to put a little bit of glue on this edge here because I want it to catch up against that center that we've already put here. So there we go, we're just going to connect it right there. I'm just going to hold it while it catches, and then I'm just going to start pulling it around with my tweezers and then holding it with my fingers in areas that I know it's going to need to glue. This is going to help hide those guidelines. I also want to note here that if this was a project where it wasn't so specific, the requests weren't so specific, and I had more time, I would have created these roses myself. But because there was a little bit of a time crunch, I was like, yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to, and it's a good thing I didn't, because whenever you create something new, you're running the chance that you may not like what you've done, and you may have to go in and alter it in some way. And I didn't want to take that chance. I just didn't want to have to rebuild it. As it is, I ended up having to rebuild it anyways, but because of something different. Just still following that line out here. And I'm not going to follow all of those lines. I'm actually going to just connect it right back up here to the T. I'm not going to be super specific. I'm just using them as a guideline. So we're going to go ahead and just snip this up in here like that. I'm going to make sure that this comes to right there, and then this will be one of the revolutions of the rose. Now you see that we've still got some lines to cover in here, and we'll do the other shade of paper for that. We're just going to do the major ones of this. So I'm going to soften this up a little bit by just running around, because cardstock is very stiff. And for this one, we're going to connect this right up into here, because it looks like we've got another whorl that starts right about there. And then what we can do is we would put another one up in here, just where that other mark is. So I'm just going to actually make this a little bit easier for me. I'm going to dip that right there in cardboard. In glue. And we are going to just grab it. And I'm going to put it right there on the outside edge of that one. I'm going to hold it down so that it glues. I don't want it popping out here. And see how it's kind of popping? I want to fix that because that annoys me. So I'm going to go here with a little bit of glue. Or normally would have been a little bit of glue, but because I'm doing this from a distance and kind of at an angle, it's actually turned into a lot of glue. So let me go ahead and clean this up here. There we go. I'm just going to clean that off. Stay. Okay. Sometimes you have to really tell your paper what is what. You gotta tell it what to freaking do. So I'm gonna follow this line along there. I'm going to follow this over like this on the inside. This kind of gives a little bit of a bow. I'm going to cut this here so that it doesn't hump up. And what I'm going to do is take care of that glue there, and I'm going to spin this because I want to kind of make this kind of curl in. I want it to indent a little bit. So I'll go ahead and hold it like this, and I'm going to press it down because I want this to bond, and you actually can't see that. So we're a little bit too zoomed in. Try to not do that in the future. So what I did was I made a little dip right there by bending the cardstock. I want to let it dry a little bit before I mess with this because it will very easily pop off right now. So see, I've got another line right here that I want to cover. So I'm just going to take another shorter strip of cardstock. I'm going to come in here, and and it will go to right about there, which is, you know, where that terminates. So that looks perfect to me. I'm just going to, again, dip just the end portion in glue so that it catches, and I'm going to hand glue the rest of it, following along these lines to help cover them up, but also give cardstock in here, which is a bolder, more defined look. And I'm going to stop that right there in the corner of that section. I'm just holding this down with my fingers while I glue on each side, and didn't want to catch, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to hold this down for a few seconds while it catches. There we go. What this is going to do is going to give me nice open areas, so I can go in here with some lighter, with some of this regular weight paper, and I can put it right up against it, so it's going to give me all kinds of different textures, all kinds of different widths, and hopefully some extra visual interest. Alright, so I went ahead and this curled nicely that way. Now I've got to get it to hump up around this way. So to do, I want to make sure this is nice and solid. I'm going to put my paintbrush down here, and I'm actually going to bend around my paintbrush. It looks as though it's got a, we have to kind of make like a double hump here. So I'm just shaping this. I'm going to cut a little bit more off here. I'm talking with the paintbrush in my mouth here because it's kind of being problematic. So what I want to do is I want to keep this curved like that, and then I want to start a curve on this too. So I'm just kind of going here, doing it the difficult way of doing this while it's already being glued down, as opposed to trying to pre-shape it. Here, I'm gonna, while that part is shaped exactly how I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and get this glued down. So I'm just gonna put some glue like that. I'm gonna come in here and grab that indentation, and I'm gonna hold it down until the glue catches. There we go, that should be good. And then just touching up some glue on the interior there. And then I'm just going to I'm going to connect this back around. Okay? So because I really can't see what I'm doing over in that area, I'm just going to kind of pre-glue it. And I'm also going to pre-glue the side here to hopefully catch the edge. Just like that. I'm going to hold it, and then we have this nice little divot, this divot bump, which is organic looking. There, and it's all glued down. Alright, so I may actually spin the board again so that I can get a better view of the things that are on the outside edge here. Just had to kind of move all of my stuff that I've got piled up. We're going to spin. What I'll probably do is I'll probably eventually do a tutorial that is on an actual rose, you know, where you actually just go in and create the rose itself without a template, because it's actually fairly easy. All right, so I have a little leftover strip here. I'm just going to go ahead and curl it up so it's got a nice arc. It's like an arc shape, and I'm going to just kind of see I've got a line in here. I want to get that covered, so I'm just going to dip it. I'm going to dip it in glue, tap it off so it's not all gobby, and then I'm going to follow that line with my cardstock. I'm just going to kind of force it up in that area, and I'm going to press and hold. And then it looks like I'm probably going to need to tap a little bit of glue where it, sorry, I got the hiccups, touches the center here. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of give that some glue. I'm going to hold this just to make it sure that it stays put. If you're impatient, you can get a little, there's like a little heat, like a little blow dryer that you can get that you can dry your glue with. I actually have one around here somewhere, but I don't bother with it anymore. I actually used to use it quite frequently. I was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm bothering with this. It's actually more of a pain in the butt than just the weight. Okay, we're gonna go ahead, and what I want to do is I want to get the outside of this white one outlined so I can work up against it. So I have a strip of 3/8 inch cardstock white here from when I was outlining the, actually that one's already been used. I'll do this one instead. So I'm just going to snip off a section that I know will be long enough to fit in that location, and I'm going to just pre-shape it because I just want it to fit nicely here. So I just want to get a general sense of how it needs to fit, and it needs to kind of have an S shape. So I'm going to come in here like this. I'm going to bring it around like that, and I'm going to snip it a little bit long. I don't want to snip it too short. And then I know it's going to fit in that area, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to tap it in the glue like that, and even the end so that it connects onto the T there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get that precisely placed right at the very edge of the white rose. I don't want to be seeing white rose in the green area. There we go. That's good. And then I'm going to paint on the white side, because typically speaking, white Elmer's glue on white edge work on white background paper, as long as it's not a coated background paper, disappears almost entirely. So we're going to keep following this edge down. Make sure you're checking on both sides so that you have so that you're not overlapped too far either way. And then once you get down to the end here, you're gonna have to determine how much of this to cut off. In that case, I'm going to spin this because I really can't see. We're just going to snip off about 1 millimeter at a time, and we're going to kind of push. And once we have gotten to the point, let's see if I can zoom down here. Once we have gotten to the point where there's no triangle of pink left, that's when we want to glue it. So hold on a second, I'm going to check this. Okay, I just had to pull it closer to me to check it. I didn't want to run into the situation that I did with the bee last night, where I thought I was seeing things properly, but the reality was that I wasn't, because I was at such a weird angle. I'm just going to go in here, and I want to make sure that, like I said, there's nothing overlapping on either side. And I've got a little bit of overlap on the white side, so I'm going to pull it out. There we go. Perfect. And I've got a little bit of green showing here, so we're just going to push like that. We're going to push it in, and then we're going to put some pressure on it so that it holds, so that it stays down and it doesn't pop back up into the green area. See, the green that we're showing here is gone now. All right. So the reason I did that was because I need to work up against it. And I don't want to make the edges look all kind of crappy, because we have a lot of little fill to add in here. So let's go ahead and grab keep whacking this now. Let's go ahead and grab this. I'm going to give this another turn, I think. And spin this back this way and then bring you over here. All right, so what you notice first is that we've got a little teeny weeny, a couple of teeny weenies up in there. So we're just going to snip like I don't know, probably about a millimeter, maybe 1.5 millimeters. And that fits perfectly up in that space. So we're gonna take some glue, put it on the bottom, and we're gonna tuck that right up in there. Just like that. Now we've got a little piece that comes across like that, and I'm going to kind of just measure it like this with my thumb. Like this. Now I wanted to have a little bit of a curve to it, so I'm going to get out my big 10mm dowel, and I'm going to just bend it slightly so it gives it a very gentle arc shape. We're going to see if this fits where I want it to, and it does, and it's actually a little bit too arc shaped, and that's exactly the length that I wanted. Dip it in glue, set it in place. In this case I have a little bit too much glue, so I'm going to go in there and I'm going to clean it up. There, perfect. Alright, now I've got one that comes around like this. We're going to go ahead and measure for that. I'm going to call it good at about that length. Let's see how that looks there. I think that looks good like that. So I'll go ahead and tap it in the glue. I'm not going to keep showing that. Showed it a couple times, and that's pretty much all we really need. I'm just going to try to bend it enough to catch the bulk of that line that is showing. Just go ahead here and check it really quick. It looks like I just will come slightly forward with it. There. That's good there. All right, what else do we got here? We have got one that connects here, so we'll just do one wide one there. It's not a wide one. I can't talk. We'll just call it a cardstock strip. I'm going to zoom this back out in a second here. If you want to make sure your glue's clean first, you can just kind of rub your fingers over it like that. And I'm just going to put it over that line there. There. And that's exactly how I wanted it to look. So we got a really good start. The next line we're probably going to do is, we may fill this in with the regular weight paper. We're going to have to do some extra strips of regular weight paper here, but as far as cardstock is concerned, let's go ahead and let's say we're going to put one. Let's zoom out first. Let's put one here. It's going to be about that long right there. It's going to follow here, but it's going to hump. So I want it to curl for that little hump there, and then I want to pinch it so that it, so we're going to curl that little hump like that, and then we're going to curl the other side of the hump, and we have that shape that we need for that area. And I want to kind of give this an extra curl. So we should have a fairly good approximation of the shape that we need here. Because it doesn't need to be exact, it's okay because we're going to do some fill with the other weight, which will cover any lines that aren't covered with this. Guidelines, I should say. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was hoping for. I think we can work with that. Go ahead and dip this in glue. I'm going to wipe off some globbies that I see. There we go. Perfect. All right. The next one is actually gonna go, I'm gonna not go exactly by the guidelines, but I'm gonna connect it down here. And I'm gonna bring it around to this. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut it roughly where I need it to go. And it's gonna start right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start that with some glue. And then I'm gonna paint my glue around the rest of it. There you go, just like that. Now let's get the paintbrush out. Actually, that one's dried up on me a little bit, so I need to go and get my other one. It's always a good idea to have multiple paintbrushes. There we go. I'm just going to follow it right up like that on the inside of that mark. That looks really good. I'm just gonna, smooth out some glue globs. This next piece, we don't want to hit up into the pink, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my pink paper. I think I'm gonna use the lighter pink shade. Yeah, that matches the actual base color. This is a more complex shape, so it's gonna be a little bit more finicky. So we're going to go in here and figure out where this first divot's going to be, which is right there. I'm going to bend backwards against it, like that. And then it's going to come around like this, and I can smooth the rest of it off with my paintbrush. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue the end of this, because that's the part that is going to be the most finicky. I want to make sure that that is exactly where I want it. Check both sides to make sure you don't have any weird gaps. And then you can, once you've got it where you want it, let's get our glue down nice and firmly. I am going to go ahead and add some extra glue here just because these weird angles tend to pop up when you put too much pressure on them. Let that dry for a few seconds. I want to go ahead and follow that curve there, and we're going to paint into it right here. Here's something. I'm going to let this glue tack up a little bit before I start doing the curve that goes the other direction. It's like all fingers on deck. So we want to kind of bend it back the other direction now. But you don't want to lose that outer curve that you just made. So if it's not glued down like I just discovered, put some glue on both sides of it. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and just let this, whoopsie. Let's let this dry, because otherwise I'm just going to keep having to redo it. Because I don't want this to bounce out, I'm actually going to go in here and put my glue bottle there just to hold that at the correct angle. Okay, let's see if that's solid enough to work with it. Okay, it seems to be. So we're going to just go ahead and follow that outside edge here. I'm gluing on both sides because it's very tense and it wants to keep popping off. And I'm going to come right up to this, and I'm actually going to do the bend that I need here. So I'm going to bend it around like that. And make sure that all this is where it's supposed to be still. Press it down and hold it. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but this is the way it's happening today. You could be really finicky and just pre-shape the whole thing, but I'm just not feeling that today. We're going to cut that end off because we don't want it to get too carried away. There is a little bit of a lip showing right here, but I think that what we'll do is, we'll just kind of pop it up and hold it back down. It's going to be covered when you fill these anyways, so I wouldn't really worry about it. I'm going to leave that like that and deal with it when I come back over here to do the actual pink rose. Right now, I just needed something to work up against. All right, let's go ahead and grab some of the rest of this paper here. And this next section is kind of, it's roughly this long, just to get a really quick and dirty measurement. And it's kind of shaped like a double hump again. So there's like a little divot in the center. So it's shaped kind of like that. Although it's more eccentric, it looks like it's a little bit more humpy on one side. So let's just kind of come over here and see if we can't make this like that. I'm just going to general shape here. I don't need to be 100% precise. There we go. And that's how I want that to look. And that's why I say I'm not using these lines as an exact placement. It's a guideline. It's just to keep the hint of the rose shape, so that you don't get it looking too circular, like it's not just a bunch of concentric rings. Perfect. All right. And this next piece right here, we're going to kind of come around like that. So I'm just going to pre-soften it like this. And we're just going to connect it right back up into here. I might cut a little bit off that because I might want to connect it a little bit further up. Let's connect it right there. I'm just going to glue the bottom portion of it, clean it off. And then just set it in place. There. Hold it, let it dry. Alrighty. Now for the next piece, I think we're going to do is come all the way over to here and all the way over to there. I think we're going to go around the full outside edge of that section of the rose. So I'm just doing a basic measurement to make sure that it fits where I want it to, and we're just going to go just like that. Don't get too fussy with your measurements if you're using this technique, because you can always go back and add a couple of little pieces later to make it look more full, or to fill in where the little lines are. There, that looks good too. There's a little piece right here that I want to fill in, and I'm going to guess it's about that long. There's that. And that was exactly the right measurement. I'm going to go ahead and set that there. And then I'm going to just do the outline of this. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, it's about that long. I'm probably going to have to nip a little bit off, but that was just a starting point. Yeah. We'll snip this off right here. There. Perfect. And on this one, I'm going to go ahead and tap the ends in, because I don't want it to kind of bow or pop off. I will clean this off though, so it's not, all gross. Okay. And we're just going to slide it up along here like that. And that's exactly what we want to do. But look at that. See, when you look from the other angle, it's popped off of this a little bit. It's not lined up. And that's what happens when you're trying to do this from a slight, when you're not really having your head right down there to work inside of, to work in it, I should say. There. Just fix it. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up just a tiny bit right along there. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and let this dry, and I'll come back and we'll finish the rest of it in part 2. I think we're going to have to separate this into 2 parts because we're already at the 35-minute or 37-minute mark.